Unplugged in Cambodia. Decades after the Khmer Rouge genocide killed nearly 2 million people, we traveled to the Southeast Asian nation where China and the U.S. are in a struggle to influence in the region. A generation later, history, technology, and democracy are shaping the country's future. Unplugged in Cambodia, 40 years after the genocide. Plugged in, I'm Greta Van Susteren, coming to you from Phnom Penh, the capital of the Southeast Asian nation of Cambodia. It has been decades since the neighboring Vietnam War ended and the genocide here in Cambodia began. In the mid-1970s, Cambodian dictator Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge slaughtered about 2 million people. That's 1/4 the nation's population. And today, more than 4 decades later, the U.S. and China are now competing with each other for influence here. China's Cambodia strategy is to use massive infrastructure investments to leverage economic power and secure alliances here. The U.S. Cambodia strategy, on the other hand, focuses on supporting democratic reforms and engaging their young population. We traveled here to talk to the younger Cambodian generation about the ghosts of the past, China's presence here, and the future challenges of establishing press freedom and democracy. We begin with VOA's Brian Padden and China's economic influence on Cambodia.
In the Cambodian port city of Sihanoukville, construction continues on over 1,000 high-rise buildings that have broken ground since 2017, funded in large part by Chinese private investment. With plans to open over 100 casinos, Chinese investors hope to convert this once quiet seaside resort area into a gambling destination to rival Macau and Las Vegas. But local resentment is building over the number of Chinese workers being brought in to fill the higher wage jobs. Chinese business owners say there are just not enough skilled workers in Cambodia.
I am a boss. I prefer to use Cambodian labor. I don't want to recruit workers from China because it's more expensive.
The Chinese government is providing $4 billion in development assistance loans to improve Cambodia's infrastructure, expand its seaport, and build a new expressway between Sihanoukville and the capital Phnom Penh. The growth of over 160 Chinese-owned manufacturing companies in the country has created an estimated 20,000 new jobs for Cambodians that pay about $8 a day, which is more than they would make working in the rice fields.
The work here and at home is not that different. At home, the work is under the hot sun, but here, it's in the shade.
These mostly garment and furniture factories in Southeast Asia also help Chinese-owned companies avoid possible U.S. tariffs imposed on Beijing. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen has welcomed Chinese aid and investment that does not link funding to democracy building and fighting corruption as assistance from the U.S. and Western nations do. But China's backing, human rights activists say, is helping Hun Sen tighten his authoritarian grip on power. The Prime Minister can rule without regard for U.S. and European sanctions imposed for banning the opposition National Rescue Party and cracking down on independent media ahead of his election victory last year. And critics say it has bought Phnom Penh's support on regional security issues, backing Beijing's claims to the South China Sea and opposing both Taiwan's independence and Hong Kong's call for greater autonomy. However, supporters of Chinese investment dispute any assertion that Beijing has purchased Phnom Penh's loyalty.
Cambodia is not belong to China. Cambodia is not belong to the other country. Cambodia is Cambodia.
Still, there are concerns that Cambodia's increasing debt will keep it dependent on China to avoid a financial crisis after the construction boom ends. Brian Padden, VOA News, Sihanoukville.
Youth is king in the kingdom of Cambodia.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Young people are everywhere, and there are plenty of smiles to go around. Everything from majestic temples to colorful food markets. You want fresh seafood? No problem here. It's easy to see why tourism is on the rise in Cambodia. And the most popular way to get around is by tuk-tuk. Cambodia is still a developing nation, but progress is being made, slowly but surely. Haunting the future of Cambodia is its violent past. It's been 20 years since the last of the Khmer Rouge leaders either died or were arrested. A tribunal for the leaders of the genocide has resulted in only 3 convictions in the court's 12 years. Around this nation, human rights organizations have discovered nearly 24,000 mass graves. While in Cambodia, I met with Yok Chang, the director of the Documentation Center of Cambodia. He was 15 years old when he was jailed and tortured by the Khmer Rouge. For more than 2 decades, Mr. Chang has collected evidence of the genocide. What's it like now for everybody?
Well, we have to understand our history so that we can control the futures. But this is a most difficult history, a complex history. And that's why I can understand how complex it is. I've been through, I lived through it, and I worked through it for decades, so I can understand. So that's why I think that understanding is the most significant, so that to rebuild the society, and everyone have to understand. And that's why I focus so much on education after the tribunals. It's always helped to bring us closer through an understanding.
Well, it's a very young population here.
It's compulsory.
But what? What's compulsory?
The teaching of the Khmer Rouge history.
It's compulsory.
Now.
So people are openly talk about the atrocities
Yes.
and the genocide.
Yeah. I think, it's always easy to talk about somebody else, but not your own. Like I never speak to my mom, for example. I always speak about other people that I research on, for example. So the teaching has been compulsory since 2009. It's been 10 years now. We need a textbook, work with the government. From grade 7 to 12, have to study the Khmer history. Also, foundation year of every single university. The quality is still low, but it's there in the scientific way, not in an emotional or political way, so that people can search for their own answer. Each of the mention of the Khmer Rouge in any part of the country represent a similar form of truth commission that you have heard of. People discuss among smaller group, bigger group, family, pagoda, churches, mosques, government officials, different way, different form. And everyone have their own determination, they have their own understanding. And that, for me, it's very, very healing.
Thank you very much for talking to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also met with Rose O'Peep. She is Executive Director for the non-government organization Gender and Development Cambodia. She is one of many Cambodian women with a first-hand account of the atrocities carried out by the Khmer Rouge. She is now working to empower women across all sectors of Cambodian society. What happened to brothers?
My brothers, the first brother, almost 1978, he escaped from the community. He wanted to go to Thailand, and then he was killed.
All right, when you say escape from the community, had he been run out of Phnom Penh town?
They arrested him on the way.
And why did they arrest him for trying to leave?
Because Khmer Rouge do not want everyone move from one place to another. If they see you go somewhere, they arrest and they accuse that you are not you are not friend.
And your other brother was also killed by the Khmer Rouge?
The other brothers went back to Svay Rieng province where he was born, and he was arrested right away because they know that he's policeman.
Do you ever wonder, how anyone could have been so cruel like that? Do you ever think to yourself, why they were? I mean, the numbers are staggering. I hear 2 million people were slaughtered. Some say more, but you ever thought about how people could be so cruel?
I think that the theory of Khmer Rouge is only a fight for freedom. So people living are unequal, and then they only bring the message that who are not your friend, those are your enemy. I saw them, and they dress black, and they have their own hat, and they have gun, and they go with their own, and they invade into my community, and I see that they are just people. When I see them in my community, and when I go to the during Khmer Rouge after 1975, I see that somehow they act is very nice, but they inside they have a really strong feelings. If you do not respect, or you just act that you are the people who living in a luxurious life, then you are the enemy, and the enemy, they kill you. When they kill you, doesn't mean that they kill your body, but they kill you here because you are having different perspective, like enemy of the socialism, that you are a capitalism.
What did you think when you later on learned that upwards of 2 million people were slaughtered? What did you think later?
I feel I really the same as the other Cambodian, feel very worthless because Cambodian relate to every family member lost, and we lost in a certain that we don't know what's wrong with that. We were asked to work very hard, but we didn't have food to eat. And then when we say something, they accuse us as their enemy. We don't know. I really don't know. I just feel like so weak. I have no right to say anything. And I was never been taught about my right to talk, my right to have life, my right to have food.
What ended it? What happened to the Khmer Rouge? It was from about 75 to 79, and then the genocide stopped. Why? What was it?
I really don't know about that, but what we learned is Vietnamese try to help to chase the Khmer Rouge, and the Khmer Rouge have no support maybe, and they don't have support, so they just become smaller and smaller and put themselves into the forest and let us just go.
What is it like for Cambodian women in general?
In general, I feel that women in Cambodia become more aware about our rights and aware about our roles, that we are the person who take care of the children household, but we also have aware that we have the role in social work and also politics. A lot of women go to vote, and women are talking about voting, and they express that they vote because they want to select the good leader for our life. And women are aware about our rights, but we still have a lot of violence against women, and also we have a lot of discrimination as well at the meantime. Right now we feel like we are at the crossroad. The women feel like, where should we go? Should we go further, or we step back, or we turn right or turn left? To do that, we need a lot of more support for them, that they can make their own decision and their own life.
The population of Cambodia today is a very young population.
Yeah.
You know, do the young people, do they have a sense of history and a sense of what happened back in the 70s, or they're just moving on in their lives?
I feel so sad about this because Cambodians return back. We don't have the program to learn about Khmer Rouge. And this is part of something that is buried, that the young generation have no opportunity to learn about this history. We just know that Khmer Rouge, we know that Genocide Museum, we know Genocide, we know something like that, and we hear from each other. But for study and analyze about what is the reason and why people become like that, it is part of this is missing. So this is really sad.
Is Cambodia sort of in a good place, as they say? I mean, you're recovering from this?
For us, I really feel like nowhere like my own country. Even there's a lot of challenge, but still love my country.
While the U.S. presses Cambodia for democratic reforms, there is increasing concern that Prime Minister Hun Sen is aligning himself closer to Chinese autocracy. Hun Sen is the world's longest-serving prime minister. He's been in power here since 1985. Recently, he has gotten help from neighboring Malaysia and Thailand in cracking down on opposition voices. Pai Si-pan is a government spokesperson. He agreed to speak to us. There seems to be a lot of Chinese investment in this city. Am I right? And why do you think there's so much investment from China?
Well, like I share with you, stability, peace, and our policy very friendly to investors. Not Chinese, like Japanese, as well as the South Korea, they are here too. And we saw a number of British, they come here too. But the amount in Chinese, the first ranked. Cambodian ourselves is second ranked of investment of the construction.
What about the United States? How would you characterize or describe the investment of the United States
well,
here?
the United States pay too much politics. They don't engage in economy that much.
The Prime Minister has said that the difference between China and the United States is that China doesn't have strings attached to investment and to dealing with the Cambodian government, meaning things like human rights, things that the United States are leaning more towards democracy, that the United States has too many strings attached. Is that the way you see this?
Well, everyone understand and know exactly what the United States want and what the China want. China wants to deal only money, business. So they don't talking about something else. But United States is a good friend to Cambodia. They want to see something like a parallel to what they want as a freedom and democracy. They want to tell Cambodia to do that. But as part of the Cambodia, we are builder, nation builder, from a killing field to what you see right now, developed a country. We understand that want priority economic growth.
What's your relationship now between Cambodia and the United States and the Trump administration?
It's good because we try reflect to my Prime Minister letter.
The recent letter. The
yeah.
recent letter.
Yeah, the Trump, he said that we don't have to be a trap in the past, the bad. Relation as well as cooperation. We use our opportunity to build like a good relation as well as establish a mechanism to communicate each other. We are a sovereign state, and as well as the United States is a sovereign state. We are partners, dialogue partner. We not under administration of United States. We respect each other. The Chinese, they have money. So as well as China have a chance to invest in the United States, as well in Japan, as well in South Korea, everywhere, even in the Europe. So why prejudice against Cambodia? We looking them, the Chinese to invest for economic growth, for employment, as well from tax and the others. But Cambodia maintained as a neutrality, we friend everyone.
Do you have a relationship? Do you communicate back and forth with North Korea?
Well, because North Korea as a friend with our king, our past king, and we don't use anyone as our enemy. Respect on coexistence, respect on sovereignty, respect on independence. But we have to follow the international UN regulation. As a ban against North Korea, yes, we agree with that one. We accept that one. But we don't want, Cambodia don't want to be enemy with anyone.
The press here in this country, you don't have freedom of the press, do you?
Well, we do, but not quality yet.
Well, you've banned one newspaper, Cambodia
We never
Daily.
banned it.
Well, they have. I know.
We never banned it.
Well,
don't use a ban.
Would Cambodia Daily be free to start a newspaper tomorrow called the Cambodia Daily?
Well, they have to come out to with the Ministry of Information, fill out all paperwork that they're supposed to do.
Fill out what?
Paperwork.
And what does the paperwork say?
A request for, the licensing to operate.
I guess, and you've lived in the United States, and I think of freedom of the press, you don't have to go out and get a license and get approved by some department to be able to have a press.
We're not American, we're Cambodian.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But so that's where I think that you don't have a freedom to sort of speak out and to report.
You have a freedom
if
to
you
speak
have
out.
to get a license. I mean, and you get to decide who gets the license and who doesn't.
Well, talk back to this one. The freedom of press, we want the idea flow without obstacle. That's we want. But the press themselves have to educate themselves to understand that code of ethics, professionalism.
Who determines this code of ethics?
They themselves. They have to prepare themselves. We get a number of foreigners to train them, code of ethics. And a number of times that CNN, Al Jazeera, you, and number of BBC, they come here. Always welcome. They never have a clearance from, house clearance from the Ministry of Information. They come down. They have a people over here, they try to arrange it.
What is it, do you think, that Cambodia would like from the United States in a relationship with the United States beyond what it has now?
Well, mostly that we saw a United States as a pluralistic, society, free, the economy, and everything is another civilized. We want to learn from United States. As an NGO, non-government organization. They operate completely different from the NGO in the United States, NGO over here. NGO over here, they support a political party. In the United States, they don't support it, but they could do express themselves what their own interest in. That's what I learned from that. What I'm working over here, completely different idea. Even media, different idea. As a professional media, it have to understand that, have to get that, because education, because ethics, because of professionalism, we don't have that much over here. They do, but not up to that great as a free country.
Very nice to talk to you. Thank you, sir, for talking to me.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Independent news organizations in Cambodia are struggling to recover from major crackdown on the press during its 2018 election that forced the closure of dozens of radio stations and prominent newspapers. But the threat of sanctions by the European Union forced the Cambodian government to loosen its pressure on media organizations. However, the threat of imprisonment still exists. VOA's Brian Padden has that story, plus details on Cambodia's young population. Half of the country's 16 million people are under the age of 25. Many of them are making a living by providing cheap labor to foreign countries. But they are sharp and plugged in, using tech to engage in politics and social causes to chart a new future.
The Voice of Democracy is back in operation after being forced off commercial radio stations by the Cambodian government during the 2018 election, but not over the airwaves. The independent station, funded by international donors to provide balanced reporting on politics and policy, only streams through Facebook and YouTube.
We just report like we did before. I can't say whether it is good or bad, but let the audience decide to what extent we have done so far.
Voice of America is also in negotiations with local radio stations to get back on the air after recently being granted a broadcast license. The English-language Cambodian Daily is another casualty of the media crackdown. So is the independent Phnom Penh Post, taken over by a company that had worked for the government, and Radio Free Asia shut down its Cambodia bureau after the government charged the U.S. broadcaster with millions of dollars in taxes. 2 Radio Free Asia journalists imprisoned for 10 months on charges of espionage are free, at least for now.
Our case still pending at court, and after the trial, the long trial, the court say they want to reinvestigate more. Actually, when the court cannot find anything, they should drop our cases.
Human Rights Watch called the charges against them baseless and said they were part of the government's campaign to silence all critical reporting in the country. Yet government supporters accuse Radio Free Asia and other foreign media of being foreign agents aligned with government opponents in Cambodia.
The U.S. government media, has outspokenly criticized and broadcast fake news. According to my own study, Radio Free Asia's policies are opposed to the Cambodian government.
Despite the easing of press restrictions, the threat of being labeled a foreign agent, of possible imprisonment or unfair tax burdens continues to hang over the remaining independent media outlets in Cambodia. Brian Padden, VOA News, Phnom Penh. Cambodian women's rights activist Catherine Harry is breaking social taboos in her country by discussing issues like sexual consent, harassment, and safe sex during her video blogs on social media. Her feminist message, while not overtly political, does urge women to stand up for their rights in this traditional male-dominated culture.
In a way, I'm questioning the power. I'm questioning the power balance, the dynamic, and I want more representatives in the government. And right now, there's no equal representatives.
Harry is part of Cambodia's baby boom generation, the largest population of young people in Southeast Asia, with no memory of past atrocities committed decades ago and engaged in the wider world through social media. Many are becoming advocates for social and political causes. In the port city of Sihanoukville that is undergoing rapid economic expansion, environmental activist Thun Ratha is working to preserve the city's old trees and cleaning up waste and pollution as part of a campaign to put ecological limits on development. A member of a group called Mother Nature Cambodia, Ratha's sometimes confrontational approach towards authorities worries his parents, he says.
I think my parents or uncle's generation, who had gone through the Khmer Rouge regime, are very afraid of issues related to politics, environmental protection, and respect of human rights.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has cracked down on dissent in recent years as young people are increasingly calling for political change. In 2016, a student was jailed for 18 months for calling for a color revolution protest movement on Facebook. In 2017, the main opposition leader, Sam Rainsy, fled the country under threat of arrest, and his Cambodian National Rescue Party was forced to disband, effectively making Cambodia a one-party state. Despite the increased danger of speaking out, young activists say they will continue to advocate for social and political justice.
My whole life as a woman growing up in a conservative country, I've always been oppressed, and yet I have internalized and I've been conditioned into thinking that all of that oppression is okay, and I don't want other women to go through that. I don't want young women to grow up thinking that it's okay to be treated as second-class citizens.
And Harry and others say it is only a matter of time before the old social and political order gives way to the new majority. Brian Padden, VOA News, Phnom Penh.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Plugged In Cambodia. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to the VOA Khmer service for their help and expertise. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Greta. We'll see you next week.